Inside my residence, they kidnapped me after holding me at gunpoint. I wore a mask and was bound to a bed. Thus, for 14 days, I was completely in the dark. It was horrible. I was beaten, malnourished, and tortured. You do realize that I was waiting for my own demise. All right, I get it. You love my kids more than I do. Now I'm just going to have to trust God with their destiny. I beg you, look after them. After that, I sort of stopped trying. Eventually, I dozed off. I went from zero to hero in the span of a second. That threw me for a loop. Why am I in this place? What gives me away as that person? Consequently, I descended to examine it more closely. I beheld the room in which I was confined, as well as the mask and handcuffs. Surprisingly, though, there was zero discomfort. Honestly, I had never felt better than I did right then and there. I was elated and liberated. A beam of white light caught my attention. Its size began to increase. As it blossomed, Jesus emerged from the light. It was an overwhelming mix of humility and delight for me. It was difficult to tell if he was wearing a robe or a hood because of the intense white light that shone off of him. Under that bright white light, his scalp, hair, and face were all laid bare. His bare toes caught my eye, and I thought, "Oh, he's wearing sandals." He was indeed barefoot. I thought to myself, "Wait, that's not a sandal. That's just light." He held me close, as if I were a baby, while he lifted me up. I managed to squeeze into another adult's arms like a baby, which defies sense. As I buried my face in his chest, he ran his fingers through my hair and reassured me, "It's all right." Endless agony and misery. Sit back and relax. What a relief that was for me. Words fail me. Next, I dozed off. Upon waking up, I found ourselves strolling along the paradisiacal shores. I was as astonished by everything as a newborn would be. There were no footsteps where he walked, as I realized when I looked over his shoulder. "Why is that?" he exclaimed. "Because you're not supposed to go back." Without hesitation. In the moment when I acknowledged, "Oh, I'm not going to see my babies again," I felt no sadness, only release. He informed me that it's impossible to feel sorrow, fear, shame, guilt, or any negative emotion in this realm. He set me down on the beach, and I wriggled my toes in the grains that looked like crystals. My feet were comfortable in them. I looked down at the ocean as we strolled hand in hand along the beach. Interestingly, the water's motion came to a halt as he stepped. "Everything must stand still in my presence," he said when I questioned why. "We will cause a ripple after we depart." To put it simply, everything around me was indescribable. I had never seen greenery like that in the surrounding trees before, and there was no sky at all. Instead, there was light all around, no blue and no clouds. From where is the light emanating? I wondered mentally. It's cloudy. Furthermore, Jesus replied, "The light you see is the light of God." Oh, looking at a neighboring rock helped me understand, though. There was no shade on the rock. Light encircled it entirely. Looking at the tree's leaves, I couldn't find a single one that cast a shadow. Then it hit me. The glory of God shines simultaneously in every place. At the far end of the beach, a white light that was even brighter than before appeared, and a voice, the voice of God, came forth from it. He inquired, "So, Debbie, do you want to go back for your kids?" Knowing that no one would judge me made me feel ashamed, but I couldn't let myself feel embarrassed. "Indeed, I truly," was my response. "I must be there for them. If I am able to return, I must." "All right, you can go back to your kids," he finally responded. "However, while we're here on Earth, you must keep doing this for me." He illustrated the cover for the book, which he dubbed Bare Feet. When I viewed the cover art, I said, "No, no, nope," even though there were other people who wanted to make alterations. So long as fewer people buy the book, I'll be satisfied. What I'm going to do is align with what God desires. Everything would be okay, I thought to myself as the light went out. When I glanced around, I saw that Jesus was beaming widely. He was overjoyed. "Everything will be okay now," he assured me as we locked eyes. "You'll find out." When he touched my head, a comforting heat went all the way down to my toes. I knew then that he was curing me of all my ailments. Before we got back to the beginning, he embraced me again, and then vanished as we strolled along the shore. The Holy Family and Saints. After taking a couple of steps forward, I beheld two groups of cloaked saints on either side of me. I couldn't make out their features, but the way they bowed their heads betrayed their respect. I had no knowledge of Archangel Michael as a child, but he was on my left, and Archangel Gabriel was on my right. The angels were not the ethereal beings commonly envisioned. Rather, they stood at a towering 9 feet tall, accompanied by wings and a halo of white light. Rather than supernatural entities, they resembled fearsome warriors. On the other hand, Mother Mary hid her hair in a pale brown garment. A motherly smile spread across her face as she raised it to meet mine. Her words of encouragement were, "God always answers the prayer of a mother." The saints lowered their heads in supplication for me, and the one who turned to face me had a lovely smile that belonged to Mother Mary. All of a sudden, I was exhausted, and I curled up into a fetal position on the beach. When I thought back on my return to my physical form, I recalled how liberated and light I felt as I twirled like a dancer across space and time. If I wanted to, I could go back in time or even visit other planets. The event was surreal and mind-blowing. Sadly, I was also aware that I needed to get back to my physical self. After feeling such liberation and finding my bearings, the reality of how constrained life can feel became glaringly apparent with that gasp as I re-entered my physical form. It might be quite discouraging to keep returning to this. Unfortunately, I miss my home. Folks, this is no place to live. When we consider what's ahead, our camping vacation seems like a picnic. Victimized even now, I felt at ease upon returning to my physical form since I had faith everything would be all right. Fear had vanished. For 12 days I waited for my death, unsure of how it would come to pass. I felt completely at peace and smiling after this event, even though I had anticipated the worst. It would be all right, even though I didn't know when or how it would happen. After 2 nights of consideration, they agreed to attempt dropping off the ransom money again, and this time it worked. I was then let go. It was God's word to humanity that I see all, I hear all. I know all that happens in the darkness and the light, and I save. He rescued me from a precarious predicament. It had never happened before, but the kidnapper returned my phone so I could contact my husband. The cops didn't get it. Nobody can fathom why my kidnapper, who was vicious to me 1 minute, became my defender the next, telling me he was my friend and that anyone attempting to harm me would have to murder him first. Some higher power had a hand in that. This occurred after I surrendered my situation to God. "I am a stone-cold killer," he told me. "My body count is high. In my life, I have butchered numerous individuals." Finally, he broke down and apologized. "That is God's doing, not mine." Doctors at the hospital where I sought treatment following my miraculous recovery said to me, "Debbie, most likely you have contracted HIV from one of these men." He informed me that the likelihood of my having HIV was 98%. Knowing that when Jesus stepped in, everything was taken away calmed me. They were all negative when the final test results were in. No signs of sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, or anything else led the doctor to be perplexed and confused. Find solace in it. Find solace in this. Fear of death is unwarranted. We just shed our flesh suit and keep on living. One should not be afraid of death. Actually, I'm excited about it. Oh my goodness, I will be overjoyed when my turn comes. Leaving here. The thrill is in that.